Today's lesson is 1.3, Inductive and Deductive Reasoning. Don't forget to write the title on the top of your page. Don't forget your page number. Mine is page 7. And don't forget today's date. Today is the 15th. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the law of detachment and the law of syllogism. Deductive reasoning uses facts and definitions in a logical order to write a logical statement. You've used deductive reasoning when you are looking for the next term in a algebraic or a geometric pattern. Inductive reasoning uses specific examples to form a conjecture. So we have to use very specific things that we are given, and we can't really deviate very much when we use inductive reasoning. We have two laws that we can use. First is the law of detachment. The law of detachment is a pattern of reasoning. Whenever P implies Q is true, you must logically accept Q as true. You can look at it this way. P implies Q. So you must logically, because of P, accept that Q is true. If a conditional statement is true and the hypothesis is true, we must conclude that the conclusion is true. So if one part of our statement is true, then we must conclude that the other parts are true as well. I'm going to show you how you can use the hypothesis and the conclusion to figure out that you are using the law of detachment. All right, the law of syllogism is a pattern of reasoning. If P implies Q and Q implies R is true, then P implies R is true. So we can say P implies Q, and I guess we would say and Q implies R, then we would say that it goes to reason that P implies R. When we apply the law of syllogism, the conclusion is what is called a conditional statement. And we're going to learn more formally about this in a future lesson. But a conditional statement starts with the word if. Then it has, after the if statement, it has a comma, and then it has a then statement. So if this happens, then that happens. And what the law of syllogism says is if this happens, that happens. If that happens, then this other thing happens. So basically, because you do have this repeat right here with your Q statement, you can go from P to R and you can skip all this stuff in the middle. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our examples. Now, with your foldable today, you can choose to glue it onto one page, fold it in half and glue it into one page, or you can choose to cut it and glue it on two. I have chosen to glue it onto two, so I'm going to make sure that I get my second page number in there. All right, here we go. Use the law of syllogism to write the logical conclusion. So we're going to look for this law of syllogism. Okay, I'm going to grab my yellow highlighter, law of syllogism. If you study, then you do well. If you do well, then your parents are happy. Therefore, and now we have to come up to the logical statement. Okay. All right. What we're going to be looking for as we go through these examples is we are going to be looking for what is the same, what repeats. That's what we're looking for. So the repeat that I see is then you do well, if you do well. Now, what I'm going to come and do is I'm going to box in the word then anytime I see it, and I'm going to circle the word if anytime I see it in my highlighting. All right, let me quickly change to my gray marker, and if you want to add this, you can, but here's how I know that it's the law of syllogism. I am looking for those repeats. Okay? And it has to repeat in this order. It has to repeat then first, if second. So I'm looking for the box first and the circle second. It has to be in that order for it to be the law of syllogism. Now what my answer is after the therefore are the two parts that I did not highlight. I start here at the beginning, so this is where I'm going to start. And then this part right here would be the end. So I'm going to go ahead and say that my then for if, hold on a second, if you study, I'm going to go ahead and put the comma, then your parents are happy. Okay, law of syllogism. I'm looking for the repeats throughout this whole examples. Always look for the repeats, and if it's then first in the first sentence and if in the second, that is the law of syllogism. What you do not highlight is the answer. All right, let's look at the next one. Now we're going to go ahead and use the law of logic to make a valid conclusion. Notice in these examples that we have to decide by the law of, and we've got to figure out if this is syllogism or if this is detachment. All right, grab a different color this time. I'm going to grab blue because as I read these sentences, it's going to repeat in a different order. If angle A and angle B are right angles, then this says angle A is congruent to angle B. Don't worry about that right now. If we need to copy it, we will just copy it exactly how it appears. Angle A and angle B are right angles. Once again, I'm looking for that repeat. So I see right here, angle A and angle B are right angles. Angle A and angle B are right angles. Notice that the word that I see is if. I am not highlighting a then. So I'm looking for those repeats once again. I'm looking for those repeats this time, but this time only the if in the circle statement is the one that's repeating. And notice that this time there's no then with it. This is going to signal for you that it is the law of detachment. Let me make sure I spell detachment right. That's what I thought. There we go. The law of detachment. Once again, the part that you did not highlight is your answer. Now you could write therefore then. You don't really have to. Honestly, I would probably just not use this word. It doesn't grammatically with the therefore make sense. However, it's okay if you put it. Your answer would be angle A, and remember you're going to write this symbol. It's an equal sign, with a little squiggle above it. It is the congruent symbol, and we will be talking about it in a future lesson. But right now, just go ahead and copy it. All right, let's take a look at the next one. If Bennett gets a job, then he can afford a car. If he can afford a car, then he will drive to school. I hear that he can afford a car part. I'm going to switch back to my yellow highlighter because there we go. It's doing the then first and the if second. So I'm going to write it one more time just to remind you. I'm looking for the repeats. What is repeating? I'm seeing then first with the box, and then I'm seeing if with the circle. I'm seeing both of those repeating. This is going to indicate the law of syllogism. And once again, the two parts that I did not highlight are going to be my therefore statement. This is going to be what I can logically conclude from these two sentences. I take the first part of the first sentence as the start. If Bennett gets a job, comma, then he will drive to school. All right, perfect. Last one. If angle A and angle B are right angles, then the measure of angle A is 90 degrees. That's what that means right there. And the measure of angle B is 90 degrees. Angle A and angle B are right angles. So I see, once again, I'm seeing this part repeat. Notice I only see the if with it. I don't see the then. So I'm going to grab my blue highlighter, and I'm going to circle that word if, and I'm going to look back. Well, it's not this one. It's not the law of syllogism, so I'm going to check my law of detachment. The if repeats. So this is going to be the law of detachment. And this part right here that I did not highlight is going to be my answer. Once again, remember, you don't have to put the word then. With the therefore, it doesn't make sense. Therefore is replacing the then in this case. So you would just start with the lowercase m. I just made mine fancy. And the measure of angle A equals 90 degrees. And the measure of angle B equals 90 degrees. All right, don't forget to get these glued into your notebook. One tip for when you're working on the practice, these two examples right here are exactly what the law of detachment and syllogism should look like. If you have anything else, you cannot make a valid conclusion, and there is no law. By the law of, leave it blank, cross it out, because if you do not have either one of these patterns, then you cannot use one of these laws, and your answer is no valid conclusion. Good luck, and I'll see you next week.